Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. Rain hammered the glass that night, sharp and cold like the world itself was warning him. Ethan stood in the grand foyer, his fists trembling, the echo of his father's voice still burning in his ears. "You will not see her again. Do you understand me?" The words hung in the air, thick and final, slicing through the silence of the vast house. His father, Alexander Voss, stood before the marble staircase, his tailored suit untouched by the storm outside. His eyes, steel gray and unblinking, pinned his son in place. "Dad," Ethan tried, but his voice cracked under the weight of it all. Alexander raised a hand, sharp and commanding. "She's not for you. End it now." Thunder rolled outside, low and endless. For a moment, Ethan thought he might laugh, because how absurd was it that the richest man in Ashbourne could look so small when fear crept into his face. Fear of a girl he barely knew. Why? Ethan's voice steadied. "What are you not telling me?" Alexander's expression flickered only for a heartbeat. Then it was gone, hidden beneath years of control you don't need to know. "It's for your own good." He turned, the conversation dismissed, walking away with that familiar air of quiet authority. But Ethan wasn't a boy anymore. He wouldn't let silence bury the truth. He stood there long after his father's footsteps faded, staring at the reflection of lightning over the marble floor. Thinking of her, Lila, her name felt like a breath of warmth in a frozen house. She was nothing like the people in his world. She laughed too loud, said exactly what she thought, and painted sunsets on walls that were meant to stay white. He'd met her 2 months ago on the outskirts of the city, at an art fair she couldn't afford to rent a booth in. She'd been sketching by the fountain instead, selling her drawings to strangers with eyes full of hope. And he'd bought one, because something in her eyes made him feel alive for the first time. Now, that same feeling burned with defiance. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time, ignoring the echo of his father's warning. In his room, he pulled out his phone. Her name lit up the screen, Lila, saved under a small heart. He typed fast, "Ethan." He found out. "I don't know how. But he said, I can't see you again." The 3 dots appeared, then stopped, appeared again, then stopped once more. Finally, "Lila, meet me tomorrow. Same place." 2 p.m. A long pause followed. Then she added, "There's something you should know too." Ethan's breath caught. He stared at those words, replaying them again and again. The storm outside roared louder, lightning cutting across the sky like a blade. Whatever his father feared, it wasn't just about wealth or class. He'd seen that look before once when his father spoke of his mother. Long gone and never discussed, and now the same fear had returned. He sat on the edge of his bed, the phone still glowing in his hand. Outside, the rain softened, but the air felt charged, like the city was holding its breath. Tomorrow would change everything. He didn't know how, only that he was going and that his father's fear had just made him more certain than ever. The next evening, the city felt different, not louder, not darker, just sharper, as if the air itself carried a secret. Ethan parked his car 2 streets away from the old railway bridge where they usually met. The world was quiet there, except for the hum of faraway traffic and the whisper of wind through the trees. He walked the rest of the way, his shoes crunching against the gravel path. A stray cat darted across the tracks. Somewhere a freight train wailed in the distance, long and mournful. And then she was there. Lila stood under the bridge light, rain-slick hair clinging to her cheeks, a small umbrella trembling in her hand. Her eyes found him instantly. Relief flickered first. "Then worry, you came," she said softly. "Of course I came." He took a step closer. "You said there was something I should know." She hesitated, her fingers tightening on the handle of the umbrella. "Ethan, before I tell you anything, you have to promise you'll listen all the way through. No walking away, no interrupting." "I promise." A truck passed overhead, shaking the bridge. When the rumble faded, her voice came out small but certain. "My mother. She worked for your family. Years ago." Ethan blinked. "What? When?" "Before I was born," she said. "She never told me much, only that she quit suddenly after something happened in the Voss house. Something she said she'd never forgive." Ethan frowned. His father had always spoken of loyalty, of how the family staff had been with them for decades. He couldn't remember his father mentioning anyone named— What was her name? Lila swallowed. Clara Mendez. The name fell heavy between them. Ethan searched his memory, but the name stirred only a faint echo. Something overheard once as a child, maybe. My father. He doesn't talk about the past, Ethan murmured. Especially not about the people who worked for him. Lila nodded slowly. I figured as much. My mom said the Voss family doesn't forgive easily, but she also said something else. Ethan met her eyes. What? She told me never to fall in love with one. The words hit harder than thunder. Ethan's throat went dry. Lila, but she shook her head quickly. I didn't plan it. I swear I didn't. When I met you, I didn't even know your last name. I only found out a week ago. When you sent me that photo from your house, your father was in the background. My mom saw it. Lila's voice broke. She screamed. She told me to end it. She said if I didn't, something terrible would happen. Ethan felt the ground tilt beneath him. Two parents, both terrified of the same thing, and neither willing to explain why. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. There's something more, Ethan. Her voice trembled now. My mom said your father isn't the man everyone thinks he is. She said he ruined someone's life to protect his own secret. A gust of wind swept through, scattering leaves and rain. Ethan took a slow breath, fighting the rising panic. Then we find out what it is, together. Lila looked at him, her eyes shining with fear and something else. Hope. Tomorrow, she said. Meet me at my place. I'll show you what she kept hidden all these years. Before he could answer, she leaned in, kissed him once. Brief, desperate, and was gone into the rain. Ethan stood there, heart pounding. The taste of her lips mixing with the cold air. He didn't see the figure watching from across the street. A tall man, coat collar raised, phone pressed to his ear. Sir, the man said quietly. He met her again. A pause, then Alexander Voss's voice, low, cold. Final. Bring him home. Now. Ethan didn't remember the drive home. One moment he was on the wet road, headlights cutting through fog. The next he was standing in his father's study, rain dripping from his coat, breath tight in his chest. Alexander was waiting. No raised voice this time. No thunder in his tone. Just calm, dangerous quiet. Sit down, he said. Ethan didn't move. His father sighed, rubbing his temple. I asked you not to see her again. I know what you asked, Ethan snapped. And I'm asking why. No more riddles. Alexander's eyes lifted, gray, tired, and suddenly much older. You wouldn't understand. Then make me understand. Ethan's voice cracked, raw and angry. You've built this world around me. Money, power, appearances. But you can't even tell me why you're afraid of a girl who paints sunsets? What did you do? The question hung there, trembling like a pulled wire. Alexander's face hardened. Watch your tone. I'm done watching anything, Ethan said. You can ground me, disinherit me, whatever you want. But I'm seeing her tomorrow. Something in Alexander broke. He slammed his hand down on the desk, the sound echoing through the room like a gunshot. You will not, he roared. You have no idea what you're walking into. Ethan flinched, but only for a second. Then tell me. His father's jaw clenched. He looked toward the window where rain streaked the glass, the city lights blurring into gold and gray. It's not my secret to tell, he murmured. Whose is it then? But Alexander said nothing. Instead, he walked to the cabinet in the corner and poured himself a drink, the ice clinking like brittle glass. If you love that girl, he said finally, you'll stay away from her. For her sake, Ethan stared. That doesn't make sense. It will, his father said, voice flat, when the past catches up. Ethan left before he could hear more. He slammed the door behind him and strode out into the cold night, fury pulsing through him like fire. By the time he reached his car, his phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. If you want the truth, don't go home again. She's not safe there, no name. No clue who sent it. But the timing was too perfect. He looked back at the mansion, the golden windows glowing through the storm. Inside, he could see his father's shadow moving. Pacing, phone in hand. Something inside Ethan shifted. He started the car and drove, not home. Not anywhere familiar. but toward the old district near the river where Lila lived. The roads narrowed, the city lights fading into rust and brick. When he arrived, her building was dark except for one light in the upper window. He climbed the narrow stairs 2 at a time and knocked. No answer. He tried again. "Lila?" A floorboard creaked inside. Then the door opened a crack. She looked pale, eyes red from crying. "Ethan," she whispered. "You shouldn't have come." He stepped inside anyway. The room smelled of turpentine and paint, canvases leaning against every wall. The corner sat an old wooden box unlocked, papers spilling out. "What's that?" he asked. Lila hesitated. "It's what my mother kept hidden, letters, photos, some of them." "About your father." He reached for one, but she grabbed his wrist. "Wait, you need to see this first." She handed him a photograph, faded. Edges curled. It showed Alexander Voss, 20 years younger, standing beside a woman who looked just like Lila, not her mother. Her Ethan's breath caught. The same eyes, the same smile. "What is this?" he whispered. Lila's voice trembled. "That's my aunt. And she disappeared the year your mother died." The room went still. Only the rain filled the silence, steady and cold. And for the first time, Ethan felt real fear crawl up his spine. The photograph slipped from Ethan's hand and fluttered to the floor. It landed face up, Alexander's arm around a woman who looked exactly like Lila, both smiling beneath a bright summer sun that suddenly felt impossibly distant. "Your aunt?" Ethan whispered. She looks just like you." Lila nodded slowly. "Her name was Isabel, my mother's older sister. They were inseparable, until she went to work for your family." Ethan's pulse quickened. "You mean she worked for my father too?" "Yes," Lila said softly. "She was your mother's assistant. Lived in the estate for almost a year. Then one night she just vanished. My mother searched everywhere. Police got involved, but your father shut it all down. Paid them off, I think. After that, my mother never spoke your family's name again." The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating. Ethan sank into the nearest chair. His father's voice echoed in his mind. "It's not my secret to tell. What do you think happened?" he asked quietly. Lila looked toward the box where the old letters lay scattered. "My mom believed your father had something to do with her disappearance. That he covered it up. She thought your mother might have found out." A chill ran through him. "My mother died in a car accident." "That's what people say," Lila whispered. "But look at this." She pulled out another envelope and unfolded a letter. The paper yellowed, edges frayed. The handwriting was elegant, looping. Signed Isabel M. Ethan leaned closer as Lila read aloud. "I don't know who to trust anymore." She found the photograph. "I told him it was just work, but she looked at me like she already knew. He says he'll fix everything before it gets out. I'm leaving tomorrow. If anything happens, tell Clara to keep the truth safe." The room seemed to shrink around them. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "She was afraid of him." Lila nodded. "And my mother kept her promise. She hid these letters. She was terrified someone would find them." Ethan stared at the handwriting, the words, "He'll fix everything," twisting like a knife in his chest. His father's calm, commanding face flashed through his mind. The same tone he used in every negotiation, every lie wrapped in control. He stood abruptly. "I have to confront him." Lila grabbed his arm. "No, Ethan, listen. My mom always said he'd do anything to protect himself. If he finds out we know, I can't just pretend none of this exists," he said. "If he really hurt her. If he's been lying all these years, then be smart about it," she said, her voice shaking. "We need proof. More than letters." The tension broke with the sudden buzz of his phone. Unknown number again. One message, "They know where you are." Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked toward the window just in time to see headlights sweep across the street below. 2 black cars. Tinted windows. "Ethan," Lila breathed. He grabbed her hand. "Back door, now." They slipped down the narrow stairwell as footsteps echoed outside the front door. Hard, deliberate. Someone shouted his name. They burst into the alley, rain hitting their faces like needles. Ethan pulled her close behind a dumpster as a man in a dark coat appeared at the top of the stairs, scanning the street. It was the same man who had watched them at the bridge. "Come on," Ethan whispered, gripping Lila's hand tighter. "We have to get out of the city." She looked at him, terrified. "Where will we go?" "Somewhere he can't control us. They moved through the rain, vanishing into the maze of streets. Behind them, the man pulled out his phone. "Sir," he said, voice low. "They're gone." A pause, then Alexander's reply, calm, deadly certain. "Let them run. He'll come back on his own. He always does." But as he hung up, his hand trembled slightly, because for the first time in 20 years, the past was moving toward him again, and this time, it wasn't going to stay buried. Dawn bled slowly into the skyline, gray and uncertain. Ethan and Lila had driven through the night, far beyond Ashbourne's glittering edges, to a place where the city's hum gave way to the sound of wind and crows. They stopped at an abandoned farmhouse miles off the main road. The air smelled of damp wood and earth, and the horizon burned faintly gold through the fog. Lila sat by the cracked window, arms wrapped around her knees. "He'll come after us," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "Not if we find the truth first." He opened the box they'd taken from her apartment. Letters, old photos, and a small metal cassette tape tucked between them. "No label. Just rust along the edges. What is that?" Lila asked. "I don't know," he said, sliding it into the old recorder they'd found in the farmhouse. The tape crackled to life, filling the silence with the faint hum of static. Then a voice, a woman's voice. "I'm recording this in case something happens. My name is Isabel Mendez. I worked for Alexander and Eleanor Voss. I think he's going to do something terrible to protect himself. Eleanor knows now." She found the letters. "She knows about me." The sound of a door slamming echoed faintly on the tape. Then a man's voice, familiar, cold, furious. "Isabel, turn that off." Lila's hands flew to her mouth. Ethan's heart stopped. It was his father. "You can't keep lying," Isabel said, her voice breaking. "She deserves the truth." A pause, the sound of a struggle. Crash. Then static swallowed the rest. Ethan hit stop. The room was silent except for their breathing. "My father," he whispered. Lila's voice was small. "He killed her." Ethan stared at the recorder, his reflection trembling in the metal surface. "And then he covered it up. Told the world my mother died in an accident." Lila reached for his hand. "We can take this to the police." He shook his head slowly. "He owns the police. The city, everyone. We need to make this public." Before she could answer, tires crunched outside. A black car rolled into the clearing, sunlight glinting off the hood. Ethan's stomach turned. "He found us." They slipped out the back, but the creak of the door gave them away. "Ethan." The voice thundered through the morning. "Stop." Alexander stood by the car, coat flapping in the wind. His eyes found his son and softened just slightly. "Please, don't make this harder." Ethan turned, rage and sorrow colliding in his chest. "Did you kill her?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." "So you did." He took a step closer. "Your mother found out about the affair. She wanted to destroy everything, our family, our name. I tried to stop her. Isabel got caught in the middle. It was an accident, Ethan, I swear to you." Ethan's voice cracked. "You buried her, didn't you?" Alexander's silence was the answer. The world narrowed to the sound of the wind and Lila's breath beside him. Ethan lifted the recorder. "It's over, Dad." Alexander's expression flickered, fear, grief, pride. "If you release that, you'll destroy the Voss name. Everything your mother built." "She's gone," Ethan said quietly. "And you destroyed her long before today." He pressed play. The tape's static filled the clearing, Isabel's voice rising into the open air, carried by the wind. Alexander froze. Helpless as the truth he'd buried came roaring back to life. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Alexander's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him. "I wanted to protect you," he whispered. "You protected yourself," Ethan said. Alexander turned toward the field, where sunlight spilled across the grass. "Tell her I'm sorry," he said, and then walked away, disappearing into the mist. Ethan stood there, the recorder still playing softly. Lila slipped her hand into his. "What now?" she asked. He looked toward the horizon, the storm finally gone. The air washed clean. "Now," he said, voice steady, "we tell the world what really happened." They stood in silence, the wind lifting through the fields, the past uncoiling into the morning light. And somewhere in that quiet, for the first time in either of their lives, the truth felt like freedom. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit channel for more real-life stories.